Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look at what is making headlines at this hour. A report by the Reuters has suggested that the Russian President Vladimir Putin will travel to China in the month of May this year, and this will be his first overseas trip after his re-election. The American Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has said that all of Gaza's population is experiencing severe levels of acute food insecurity. It has also underscored the urgent need for increasing humanitarian aid to the besieged Gaza Strip that has been put under siege by the Israelis using American weapons. The former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan is acquitted in 2 cases where he was accused of vandalism during his long march to Islamabad. Now, the Indian Prime Minister receives a bit of a warm welcome in Tamil Nadu's Salem district. Now, Modi is, of course, heading a multi-state campaign rally trying to make some inroads for the party in southern India. The Hong Kong lawmakers resumed their debate on controversial national security law. If passed, it will grant the government powers to suppress dissent, and the critics say that the bill threatens life imprisonment on charges of treason and insurrection. And Cricket Australia maintains its pretty tough position on relations with Afghanistan. A T20 series in the United Arab Emirates is called off to protest the deteriorating condition for women and girls under the Taliban. The British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said that the United Kingdom will hopefully begin deporting asylum seekers to Rwanda from the spring season. Now, this, in fact, was the original timeline for Rishi Sunak's asylum scheme, which is currently being debated upon in the British Parliament. The British government is hoping that one last push can revive its stalled plan to send some of these asylum seekers on a one-way trip to Rwanda.
Yeah, I'm still committed to the timeline that I set out previously, which was we aim to get a flight off in the spring. It's important that we get the Rwanda scheme up and running because we need to have a deterrent. We need to make it clear that if you come here illegally, you won't be able to stay and we will be able to remove you. That is the only way to properly solve the issue of illegal migration. Now, we've made good progress. Boat numbers were down by 1/3 last year, so that shows that our plan is working.
The British government is, of course, planning to pay asylum seekers up to over $3,000 to move to Rwanda under a voluntary plan. Rishi Sunak's administration has said that this plan will help clear the backlog of refugees whose applications are to remain in the country were rejected. Now, Britain and Rwanda had signed a deal almost about 2 years ago. However, no migrant has been sent to Rwanda under the agreement. And last year, the British Supreme Court had stated that deporting migrants to the African nation was just unsafe. Lawmakers in the House of Commons are due to consider some changes that have been made to the Safety of Rwanda bill by the Parliament's upper chamber, which is the House of Lords. Now, amidst the rumours and the internal party tensions, the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has faced a challenging week, with speculation mounting about a potential leadership change within the Conservative Party. Now, despite the mounting pressure, Rishi Sunak has remained resolute, insisting on unity within the party. Rishi Sonak has faced a pretty tumultuous week that was filled with warnings from colleagues, plummeting poll ratings and also the defection of a former deputy chairman. Rishi Sonak has remained pretty loyal in his commitment to lead the party forward. He's also quite determined during a visit to the West Midlands, emphasising his focus on the country's future rather than the internal politics. Moreover, the British Prime Minister has also pointed out the accomplishments that his administration has managed to achieve. And some of these include tax cuts for the rich, increase in state pensions, and also progress on tackling illegal migration. He said that all this was an evidence of his government's commitment to delivering for the country. Now, despite Rishi Sunak's assertion of party unity, speculation, of course, continues to swirl, with Business Secretary Kemi Badnoch urging colleagues to end the quote-unquote Westminster psychodrama and also to throw their support behind the Prime Minister. On the other hand, it is now being rumoured that the Conservative members of Parliament are considering to replace him with the Commons leader, Penny Mordaunt. And this is in an attempt to avoid a crushing general elections defeat. However, Penny Mordaunt has recently sparked anger after watering down a long-awaited proposal that was supposed to exclude those members of Parliament from the parliamentary estate that they were arrested on suspicion of a sexual offence. Now, the initial motion had required the members of Parliament who were arrested for these offences to be immediately removed. But now the members will only be excluded under the current watered-down proposal if they've been officially charged by the police. In Great Britain, the availability of places at nurseries and childminders has worsened for the preschool children across all age groups. Now, according to the Quorum Family and Childcare Report, fewer than 1 out of 3 councils have enough space for children under the age of 2. And this has turned out to be a bit of a nightmare for parents who say that they have to travel longer distances and even borrow money to meet with childcare costs. Now, according to Quorum's report, the Southwest was in fact amongst the worst affected areas, with 21% of the councils having enough spaces for children under the age of 2. But availability has dropped for preschool children across England, Wales and Scotland. And this comes as the government in England is expanding its funded hours offer, sometimes known as the free hours. Funded hours are available for 3- and 4-year-olds across Great Britain. In England, this scheme is due to expand to include all preschool children of working parents, with the first phase opening in the 2 weeks' time. The Department for Education has said that at least 150,000 children are set to benefit when the 15 hours free childcare a week will be offered to 2-year-olds of eligible working parents from April. The changes are expected to increase demand for spaces, but the early years sector has been struggling with underfunding and also a severe shortage of qualified staff. The costs have risen by almost about 6% this year, above the rate of inflation, which stood at 4% in January 2024. With the average annual cost of a full-time nursery place for a child under the age of 2 now standing at about $19,937. Meanwhile, the Department for Education in England has said that it is pretty confident the childcare market remains strong enough to deliver further expansion. All right, now to give us more insights in terms of the United Kingdom's political landscape and issues before the elections, we're of course being joined by Dr. Nigel Fletcher, who's a political analyst and commentator, and he's joining us live from London. Now, Dr. Fletcher, this is going to be a pretty interesting year ahead, considering the many challenges that Britain faces, and of course Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, is going to have a pretty monumental task, convincing his own party members that he is in fact the right leader to lead the Tories into the next general elections.
Yes, indeed. I mean, he's got 2 rather difficult tasks ahead of him in the coming months. The first of which is, as you say, to convince his colleagues that he should lead the Conservatives into the next election. And of course, even if he's able to do that, he's then got the task before the end of the year, we assume, of convincing the electorate that he's the right person to remain as Prime Minister. And it doesn't look very promising on the second of those. The Labour Party currently is enjoying a poll lead over them of about 20 points, which is quite significant and has remained at that sort of size for some time. But the more immediate problem for him is this growing speculation about another change of leadership. And that's something which I think is probably going to rumble on for the next few weeks, particularly as there are local elections taking place at the beginning of May. And that's always a dangerous time for political leaders. The Conservatives are expected to perform very badly in those elections, and that, if there is going to be any movement on the leadership question, is likely to be when it will happen.
Indeed, and also considering, that among the many issues, childcare happens to be a key issue for the people in Britain. Tell us a bit about how this issue, such as childcare, could actually play out in the British elections.
Well, I think the government will probably be hoping that they can make more of that issue. It was something that was one of the major announcements in the budget was some improvements to the provision of childcare for parents and the availability of funding for that. So I think they will want to say that they've got quite a good story to tell on that. Clearly, the growing costs of childcare are a concern to many families when there is a cost of living crisis. The government will want to focus attention on what they are doing to help alleviate that. I think the problem they've got is that that's not really where the political focus is at the moment. For all the time that there is discussion about the Conservative leadership and about who might replace Rishi Sunak, those are all the headlines of the Westminster drama, and people aren't focusing then on the policy issues that the government would want them to be. But we don't know, I think, in a general election what the issues are likely to be that will come up. They have a habit of deciding for themselves in elections what the agenda is going to be. We've seen prime ministers in the past try to hold an election on one question and finding that the voters decide for themselves what they actually want to vote on. But there are a number of issues that the Conservatives probably want voters to look at, whether that's reducing inflation, which was one of the key targets that Rishi Sunak set himself, and what they will hope will be a growing economy by the time of the election after the recession that we saw reported for last year. They will want to point to things like the sort of economic improvements. They'll want to point at policies like the increase in entitlement to childcare. But I think the danger is that people are not focusing on policy issues so much as they're focusing on the infighting and civil war within the Conservative Party.
Absolutely, indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Nigel Fletcher, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
Thank you.
Let's now shift our attention to the other big story that we are tracking on WION, and this, of course, is what is happening in the United States, where on Monday, the former American President Barack Obama visited 10 Downing Street. The 44th American president, in fact, met with the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak during his trip to the United Kingdom. A Downing Street spokesperson said that the visit was, in fact, an informal courtesy drop-in as part of the former president's visit to London. Now, according to reports, Barack Obama's team contacted the British Prime Minister's office, and the leader of the Conservative Party was pretty happy to discuss the work of the Obama Foundation. The trip came after Obama visited Belgium, where he met with the Belgian royal family at the Palace of Laeken. The last time Barack Obama visited Downing Street was in 2016. The former president met with the then Prime Minister David Cameron at number 10 for talks ahead of the Brexit vote at the time. Barack Obama had in fact announced that the United Kingdom would be at the back of the queue in any trade deal with the United States if the country were to choose to leave the EU. The Russian President Vladimir Putin addressed a huge gathering in Moscow after securing a new 6-year term in office. The large crowd bearing Russian flags gathered at Moscow's Red Square to mark the 10th anniversary of Russia's annexation of Crimea from Ukraine. Now, Putin, in fact, told the flag-waving crowd that the annexation of other Ukrainian regions to Russia has turned out to be a much more grave and a tragic exercise. Listen in.
Just this morning, I was informed that the railway from Rostov to Donetsk to Mariupol and Berdyansk has been restored. We will continue this work. Soon, trains will pass directly to Sevastopol, and this will be another alternative road to the Crimean Bridge.
Now, Putin, in fact, walked on the stage with his three opponent candidates after the preliminary results gave him an expected landslide victory in the presidential elections. The Russian president's speech was, in fact, followed by a wave of chants of Russia and his name. Now, the Russian state media shared footage of the residents of Crimea celebrating the 10-year-long anniversary of its annexation. A motorcade of a biker club rode through Sevastopol, and marches and performances also were held all over the peninsula. The post his victory, Vladimir Putin in fact met with the candidates from the Kremlin-friendly parties. The three candidates are supportive of Russia's quote-unquote military operations in Ukraine. The chair of the Central Election Commission in Moscow said that Putin had won a record 88% of the vote, with a new 6-year term cementing his grip on power. The former KGB officer is also to overtake the Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin as Russia's longest-serving leader in more than 200 years. Now, seeking its third straight term in power, the Indian Prime Minister is on a campaign trail in the southern states. Now, back-to-back rallies, mega roadshows, some pretty fierce barbs on the opposition. The Indian Prime Minister is in fact leading the BJP's charge for the 129 seats in southern India. But dissent in his own party may hold the BJP back, at least in the state of Karnataka. The senior Karnataka BJP leader and the former Deputy Chief Minister K.S. Ishwarappa in fact skipped the Prime Minister's Shivamogga rally on Monday. Ishwarappa has raised a banner of revolt inside the party over denial of ticket to his son to contest the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. The K.S. Ishwarappa had in fact turned down the invitation to attend the Prime Minister's event.
Boxes are sealed and taken away.
So the BJP's Karnataka troubles do not end with Shivamogga. The former Chief Minister and the sitting Member of Parliament from Bangalore North, D.V. Sadanand Gowda, has also hinted that he may quit the party ahead of the polls. The Sadanand Gowda has also confirmed that he has received feelers from the Congress party. The former Chief Minister is set to reveal his next move sometime today. The Sadanand Gowda has said that there is nothing about the Karnataka BJP that makes it a party with a difference. There are speculations that Sadanand Gowda may actually opt to contest on a Congress ticket. The BJP, remember, had won 25 of the 28 Lok Sabha seats from Karnataka in the 2019 general elections. The party is pushing hard to try and retain most of these seats. However, as the veteran leaders are revolting against the party, the BJP is of course staring at a formidable challenge in the state. Losing the Karnataka Assembly elections last year to the Congress had only added to the BJP's existing problems in the state.
Congress is very confident this time.
English football is all set to undergo a seismic shake-up. The British government is in fact pressing ahead with plans to introduce an independent regulator to oversee the sport. A bill will be introduced in the Parliament later in the day, and the Prime Minister Rishi Sonak has hailed it as a historic moment for the footballing fans. Now, the idea of an independent regulator has been discussed for several years now, but the push towards the legislation has come in the wake of a failed European Super League project in 2021. The Premier League's Big Six, Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur, have tried to join the breakaway league. And there was widespread condemnation and fan protest over what was essentially a closed-shop competition. Now, the government has announced plans to appoint a regulator in February last year following a fan-led review in 2022. The legislation will give the independent body the authority to fine clubs of up to 10% of their turnover for non-compliance with financial regulation. Its powers will revolve around three core objectives, and that is improving financial sustainability of clubs, ensuring financial resilience across the leagues, and also safeguarding English football's heritage. Now, the regulator has been the subject of debate and lobbying for months now. Last week, 10 Premier League clubs walked away from a financial redistribution deal with the English Football League, and this had prompted the British government to expedite the legislation. The regulator will be granted backstop powers to force a settlement between the Premier League and the EFL, which represents about 72 clubs from the second, third and the fourth tier. Now, the move to bring in the legislation comes a day after Nottingham Forest became the second Premier League club to receive sanctions this season for breaching financial rules. And they were docked about 4 points after an independent commission found Forest guilty of breaching the threshold of $77.6 million American last season. Now, the immediate loss of points means that they dropped to the 18th position in the table with 21 points, 1 behind Luton Town and 4 clear of the 19th place Burnley. The Forest have just about 7 days to appeal this. Now, Kim Kardashian is the latest celebrity to joke about Kate Middleton, but her comment has not been received well. The reality television star has been criticised over her insensitive comment about the Princess of Wales. The Kardashian included a tongue-in-cheek caption which read, "On my way to find Kate," in one of her recent pictures. Her caption received a bit of a mixed response. While some appreciated the 43-year-old's humour, others slammed her for taking a pretty unnecessary dig at Middleton. But Kardashian isn't the only one who's invested in the ongoing conversation about the princess. Stephen Colbert, Blake Lively and also John Oliver are some of the other celebrities who have subtly addressed the controversy. Now, Middleton's absence from her public duties at Kensington Palace to recover from what the palace has called a planned abdominal surgery has led to many conspiracy theories regarding her whereabouts and also her well-being. The theories have grown worse after the princess released a highly edited picture of herself along with her children on Mother's Day. And amidst all the speculation, Middleton was spotted at a grocery run with Prince William near her home in Windsor. But not everyone seems to be convinced with the pictures. Many netizens have in fact accused the royals of using body doubles and also have flagged the graininess of the photos that have been taken. The recent turn of events shows that the conspiracy theories are far from dying down. And with that, wrap on this edition of the News Bulletin. Stay tuned to WION.